Hello and welcome to Tuesday's Tales. Merry Christmas in July. It is actually July right now. No, it's August. See, that's what Corona Brain does to you. It makes you forget what time it is and what day it is and what your name is and all those things. But we have a great story for today. One of my favorites, and if it isn't one of your favorites, I'm sure it will be soon. Fabulous book called Merry Christmas, Festus and Mercury. And for your own personal knowledge, this is Festus and this is Mercury. Now, if you have never heard of this book before, that's probably because the only place I've ever heard of this book before is at my public library. And there's lots of different versions of this book. This author, I believe, is Swedish, and he has written this book in multiple types of ways. And so I think he has one. It's like they have different names in books. One's called like Fendus and Petson, and I think he's Fendus and he's Petson. So maybe you've heard of them, or maybe you've heard of books like Pancake Pie or other books like that. But anyways, you're going to love this book. And I love this book because it has a cat. It's fun. All right. Merry Christmas, Festus and Mercury by Sven Nordqvist. Maybe it's Norwegian. I think it's Swedish. For 2 days, Festus and Mercury had stayed indoors watching the snowfall. Finally, on the morning before Christmas Eve, the sky was clear. Festus was anxious to go to the store to buy groceries. There was hardly a scrap of food in the house, and there was so much to do to get ready for Christmas. Mercury the cat had rummaged through the cupboard to find the Christmas tree stand and was waiting with his nose pressed against the door. "Festus," the cat called, "come on, let's go and chop down a Christmas tree." Look how excited he is. He's ready to go. My cat had a job, it would not be that ready to go. But he's ready. So ready. "We'll have to do that after we go to the store," said Festus. "But first, I'd better clear away some of that snow." They went outside, and Festus cleared past to the hen house, the workshop, the outhouse, and the woodshed. "As long as we're out here, we ought to collect some fir branches for the front door," said the old man. "Do you want to come along, Mercury?" "Well, of course I want to come along," exclaimed the cat. Look, he's got little cat skis. He's ready to go. As Festus climbed up the hill, he cut branches, and Mercury piled them onto the sled. When the sled was full, they started back toward home. All of a sudden, Festus slipped, and the sled flew forward, knocking the old man right on top of the fir branches. The next thing he knew, he was speeding out of control down the hill. A stone wall rose up in front of him, and smash! The sled, branches, and Festus tumbled into the snow. Oh, Lord. That's quite an accident. Apparently, Mercury does not think it's an accident. He's having a big old time. And also, as a note, you're going to see all these little critters throughout the book. Like, they look like little gnome people. But they do funny things like ski. All right. The cat laughed and cheered, "Do that again!" But the old man did not look as if he thought it were that funny at all. He moaned and groaned and struggled to his feet. "Ah, rats," he flinched. "I really done it this time. I can't stand on my foot." Mercury stopped laughing and tried to think of something helpful to say, but he couldn't. All right, it's a big book. Festus managed to limp home, where he sat and examined his foot. "What rotten luck. I hope it gets better before the store closes, or we won't have any food for Christmas." "Oh, yes. We have to buy fish And ham and sausages, said Mercury eagerly. We'll have to wait until my foot is better, sighed Festus. And there's still so much to do. Chop down a tree, scrub the kitchen floor. I can do that, said the cat, and he ran to the cupboard for the scrub brush and bucket. Well, I suppose you could, said the old man. But remember, you'll have to dry the place properly when you've finished. Of course, promised Mercury. Festus filled the bucket with soapy water and stretched it out on the bench. He hardly had both feet up before the water came rushing across the floor. Mercury had knocked over the bucket and was surfing across Kitchen Creek on the scrub brush. He balanced on one leg, then another, zigzagging around the furniture. Waves of water rolled across the kitchen and splashed into the back door. Oh dear. Once again, Mercury is having a big time. After 5 minutes, Mercury was completely exhausted. I'm all finished, he gasped and sank onto a chair. Oh no, that is exactly what you are not, Festus scolded. You have to clean up after yourself this time because I can't do it with this foot. But I'm too tired. After all, I'm just a tiny cat, Mercury said pitifully. Now I could see a cat being like that. I'll try to feel sorry for you while you're doing it, said Festus. And when you're through, we'll bake some gingerbread. It was dusk when Mercury finished, and Festus had fallen asleep. Mercury shouted in his ear to wake him. Wake up, old man! We've got gingerbread to bake! Festus hobbled to the pantry to get the gingerbread dough left over from last week, but when he looked in the bowl, there was only a little lump left. It shrank, Festus said. Yes, funny thing about dough, said Mercury. It just disappears. Maybe some cat ate it, Festus asked. Maybe, said the cat. Or some old man, perhaps. Perhaps, said the old man. Yeah, if it all filled in that bowl, somebody did something to it. But yeah, look, this is what I'm talking about. See all these little critters just flooping around? I don't know where they came from, but they lived there. Festus rolled out the dough that was left anyway. Mercury cut out the shapes and ate the pieces in between. Then they sat together, drinking coffee, eating gingerbread, and staring into the darkened window. The house was silent and still as they thought about Christmas and how it was turning out. The store is closed until after Christmas now. I guess we won't have any Christmas food, said Festus sadly. We'll have to make do with what we've got. Some carrots and a can of sardines. Carrots on Christmas Eve? Yuck, said Festus. Said Mercury. It's not so bad, said Festus. At least you'll be getting a Christmas present. What is it? The cat sulked. You'll see tomorrow, said Festus. Now I'm going to wrap up this foot, then I'm off to bed. I feel like there's like little Santa people right all along the road. Festus wrapped his foot in 2 woolen socks, a sweater, and a pair of long johns and tied it all up with a piece of string. Now the foot really looked sore. Then he went to sleep. Mercury stewed a while longer. Then he remembered there was one thing he could still do. He ran to the workshop to get the potato peeler he had found the other day. It might have been a lousy day before Christmas Eve, thought the cat, but at least the old man will get a present. And when he finished wrapping the present, Mercury felt a lot better. The next morning, Festus's foot still hurt. "I'm afraid we won't be able to cut down a Christmas tree," he said. "What?" cried Mercury. "No Christmas tree either? That means there's no Christmas left at all." "Perhaps we can go later today," Festus said as he stirred the breakfast porridge. He didn't know what he could do to make Mercury happy. You could tell a mile away how upset the cat was. Mercury was standing in the corner stuffing carrots into the Christmas tree stand. They ate breakfast in silence. They didn't even have any milk for their porridge. Then there was a knock at the door. And Axel, the neighbor's son, peered into the kitchen. "Merry Christmas, Festus," he said. "Came to help you clear the snow, but I see you've done it yourself." Then he noticed the old man's brightly wrapped foot. Festus told him what happened. "Have you got enough food and wood and everything?" Axel added. "Well, we'll manage," mumbled Festus. At this, Mercury could not keep quiet any longer. He was hopping mad and sputtered. "We won't manage at all. We've got no food, only carrots and no gingerbread and no Christmas tree, and I don't expect there'll be any Christmas presents either." There, calm down," Festus shushed him. "We'll get by. But it would be good to have a drop of milk and some wood, perhaps, if you don't mind." Axel stocked them up with a good supply of wood. Then he promised coming back later with some milk. Whew, that's a riled up kitty. Mercury was still unhappy. He shook the carrots out of the Christmas tree stand and tried to screw in a piece of wood. "I think I know how to make a Christmas tree," said Festus suddenly. Festus told Mercury what to do. The cat ran outside and soon came back with the branches they had cut for the front door, along with a stick and a drill. Festus drilled lots of holes in the stick. Then he screwed the stick into the Christmas tree stand, and he and Mercury carried everything into the parlor. Looks like a power pole. When they had put all the branches into the holes into the stick, it almost looked like a real Christmas tree. "I wonder if that box of ornaments is under the bed," said Festus. "You can wonder all you like, but that box is in the attic, and there it will stay," replied Mercury. "You can't get up there with that foot, and I can't open the door." "I have another idea," said Festus. "Mercury, go to the workshop and see if you can find anything red or shiny, and I'll look around in here." Festus hobbled around looking in drawers and cupboards. He found spoons, a clock, a thermometer, and a little metal monkey. Mercury came back with a brush with red paint dried on it, a bike light, some springs, and other odds and ends. Festus tied a piece of red thread to each new ornament, and Mercury hung them on the tree. Making your own ornaments is fun. Then there was a knock at the door, and Axel came in with a little pail of milk and his mother, Elsa. "Merry Christmas, Festus," said Elsa. "We've brought you some Christmas food. How's your foot?" "It'll be all right, but you needn't have brought us any food. You're too kind," said Festus, but he took the basket anyway. "Not at all. I'll put some coffee on and you can treat me to some gingerbread. I've got some right here," said Elsa. And from her basket she pulled ham, meatballs, soup, donuts, and gingerbread. Oh boy, Mercury's happy. And Axel's like, "Oh Lord, what's happened here?" Shortly after Elsa's husband arrived, he said he wanted to borrow a hammer. But really, he was curious about Festus's foot. He sat down with a cup of coffee to hear the whole story. Then old Mrs. Anderson came in. "Merry Christmas, Festus," she said. "Elsa said you'd broken your leg and didn't have any food, so I thought I'd come over with a little bit of sausage." Festus bowed and thanked her and offered the old woman a seat. "Mrs. Anderson's Christmas sausage is so good," declared Elsa. "I think I'll break my foot as well." they feasted, their neighbors, the Lindgrens, stopped by, and the kitchen was filled with the sounds of Merry Christmas chatter and laughter. Mercury was forced to perform all his best tricks just to make them notice him at all. Right after that, along came the Johnsons and then the Nilsson children, and they all had baskets with them because they'd heard that Festus had broke his leg and was starving in his cottage, unable to move. Small town life, huh? Mercury led the children into the parlor and showed them the tree. The ornaments were hung up only as high as Mercury could reach, so the children helped him move them up. "Come and see the tree," the children called. Mercury and Festus made it themselves. Everyone crowded into the parlor and said, "It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful tree. You're a clever cat, Mercury." Festus and Mercury thought so too. Aw, look at the little kid holding. She's holding up Mercury so he can see the tree. That's so cute. Soon it was dark, and everyone had to go home. The voices appeared among the snowflakes. Although it was very quiet after they left, the excitement of the day still filled the little house. Festus and Mercury lit the candles the children had made and put all the Christmas food they had been given on the table. Christmas Eve dinner was not usually such a splendid affair. Then they went to the parlor and lit up the tree and gave each other their Christmas presents. Mercury got a yo-yo, and Festus got the potato peeler. They watched the fire burn down while they listened to Christmas carols, and Festus was happy. What a Christmas Eve it turned out to be, Mercury. We have such nice neighbors, don't you think? Mercury didn't answer because he was fast asleep. He must have been happy too, though, because there was a smile on his face. Aw, you kitty. Also, looks like Mercury got up and snuck some Christmas meatballs later. The end. Alright, so today, instead of a Bible story, I want to encourage you to start reading the book of Luke. If you read all 24 chapters between now and Christmas Eve, you will begin with the Christmas story and end at the Easter story. There are just enough days. And if you're like, it's December 8th, what do I do? You catch up. That's what you do. And Luke is a very easy book to read and get through. And I encourage you to start reading it all for Christmas. And we'll have a cool, awesome new Christmas book ready for next week. And we'll see you then.